Hi, and welcome to Let's Get Distracted, episode 49. Tonight, we're going to spring into spring. I've got a great guest here that's going to give us 4 tips, mind, body, and home, on how to get yourself ready for spring. Yesterday was the first day of spring, so I know you're all excited. But first, I'm Michelle Burke, coming to you live from Annapolis, Maryland. Many of you know, after 30 years as a CPA and tax accountant, I went out on my own last January and formed Health and Taxes. There are only 2 things certain in life, death and taxes. I'm here to help you flip that to health and less taxes. Every Sunday night, I come to you live on my YouTube channel, Health and Taxes. Please check out and subscribe below. Share with your friends, comment if you enjoy the content. But every Sunday night at 7:30, I bring you something health and wellness related, here to educate you, bring you something new, something to think about, something to distract you from your normal daily events. So tonight I have a very special guest who's been here before, and happy to have her again. Welcome, Colleen Avis.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I love having you here. So happy to have you back. So for those of our listeners who don't know Colleen is an integrative wellness coach and brings nearly a decade of experience and passion into the fields of meditation, mindfulness, and mind, body, and home wellness. Her clients say she is instrumental in helping them create lifestyle shifts that include reduced stress, improved sleep, purposeful and mindful nourishment, physical and mental strength, and connection to what brings them joy. She believes everyone desires to feel their best and uses the practices of Ayurveda and yoga, sister sciences, to help others create wellness, healing, and personal transformation. To create sustainable and lifestyle shifts, that the process must be practical and unique and lead by the heart. Colleen found her passion in sharing the gifts of these practices with others and believes they are called practices for a reason. Keep practicing. You'll hear more about Colleen tonight. So once again, Colleen Avis, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Michelle. I always love being here with you and your YouTube and other listeners. You have such a great community, so thank you so much. Sorry.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. I know you wanted to start off in a special way today. You had a quick little meditation to get us kicked into spring. So you want to share that with us?
Yeah, I do. Let's begin. I want to show everyone that they're meditators. So wherever you are, if you're listening to this on playback, just close your eyes for a moment. Whatever has come before this moment or might come after, try to just let those be silent here. Begin to notice your breath. So not changing anything, just noticing and allowing your breath to deepen your connection to this present moment. Gently and softly breathing in through the nose, inhaling that cool air, and exhaling warm air, releasing anything not serving you in this moment. Notice your feet or any area of your body that may be touching a surface. Allow yourself to feel connected. And as you continue with that gentle breath, connection, gently lift your chin, just gently, just slightly, as if you were facing into the warm sun. Relax the shoulders. Let the warmth of the sun guide them, release them. Relax your forehead. Relax the eyes and your jaw. Soften and relax through your ears, the muscles in the back of your neck. With your gaze gently towards the warmth of the sun, notice your breath now. As we sit in stillness here, place any thoughts or distractions that enter your mind on a spring-like cloud. Noticing it float by, out of sight. Simply breathing in and breathing out. Invite yourself to be present here, cultivating a deeper inner peace. Heart, mind, and body just being. Breathe in and breathe out. Take a few moments here just to allow everything to soften a little more. Maybe open the heart. Gently take a deep breath in and release. When you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes.
Thank you. I already feel a little lighter just taking that moment to pause. So I hope our listeners enjoyed that moment to just take a pause.
Yeah, when we pause like that, just a little bit of space, right? A little more opportunity, a little more openness as we move into this set of time together for this evening, at least. So
beautiful. When you mentioned the sun, I did take a few moments this afternoon to sit outside and just feel the sun, soak in the vitamin D. So when you said that, I was recalling that and felt the warmth of the sun. It was a beautiful day here in our area.
Nature has been beautiful to us. If you're in this, well, we're in the same area, right? This Northern Virginia, Maryland space. And as I was thinking about springing into spring, I was like, oh, thank you, Mother Nature, for at least those that are close by to us physically to experience that. And so, yeah, after a meditation like that, I like to kind of reintroduce and just say, hello, Michelle. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad we're here and that we're together, and just, share some thoughts on springing into spring, because there's a shift. There's a shift when we take the time to be present. So should we kick off?
Let's do it. So we've got, I know you've got 4 tips kind of all around mind, body, and home. So kick us off.
Yeah. So it's the timing of this couldn't be better, right? I mean, we planned it a little bit, I guess, but yesterday, Saturday, was the first day of spring, and it also happens to have been about a year plus or minus, since we all went into some type of pandemic lockdown. It's been stressful and heavy year of uncertainty and anxiety and, my gosh, grief and loss for everyone, right? But I'm also hopeful that there's been time for reflection and learning, and maybe even some deep gratitude. We as humans are so resilient, and no matter what your experiences or your wave of experience have been over the last year, when better than spring to refresh? So hopefully, this idea of throwing your windows open and letting that spring breeze blow through the house, maybe this idea of spring leaning into new ideas or being inspired, or maybe even creative. My hope this evening is really to share a few ideas, these 4-ish ideas on which you might, draw some inspiration as we spring into spring, but also really as we all gather here, really just to share energy, to begin bringing awareness to that feeling of spring, that smell of spring, and maybe opening our hearts to some newness or rebirth, or, those beautiful fresh green buds that seem to be popping up around, and just really connect with each other and connect with yourself and a little bit of nature, perhaps. And I think that spring has such a beautiful, gentle flow to it that really we should bring these 4 ideas or so together, but also just that sense of connection. So over the past few weeks, I feel like I hear more and more clients and friends eagerly awaiting spring arrival. I'm sure people in this area were very happy about the weather we had this week. And there's a knowing that it brings new opportunities and hopefulness, right? People are excited about spring because we know how it feels. There's a gentleness to it, maybe even a release or a sense of peacefulness. And so I think that's what brings some of that eagerness. And as we move from winter to spring, I like to use a yoga pose analogy. So hopefully we have a few yogis out there. When we're standing in Warrior Two, most people know that, right? We have our arms stretched out forward and back. We're gazing forward. We're in this Warrior Two stance. It's a pose where we're standing at the ready, a fresh start, direction, and movement into spring. And yet often in that pose, when Warrior Two, we flip the front palm and we reverse our warrior. There's this gentle bending of reversing before we glide back into Warrior Two. And again, that readiness to move forward, this idea that there's transitioning in and out of readiness. And so some of us, depending on where you're tuning in from, we still may be flowing between is it spring or is it winter? Like, where are we? And so as we move into this conversation tonight, I really just want to, kind of draw our attention to the fact that we can really benefit from being mindful of the transitions that are occurring between seasons, as well as all transitions, right? So we spent the last few months in winter, and this year it probably felt a little more isolating or heavier than others, maybe a different winter, if you will. But we also probably got cozy and enjoyed comfort foods, and that we can really, think about making a transition from that into spring, but oftentimes coming out of winter with some of that cozy, warm, heavy stew-like foods, if you will, or coldness. Spring can feel a little heavy and maybe even a little sluggish, right? So you relate to that, Michelle?
Yeah. We're in that transition of some winter foods to spring foods, like the warm foods to the cooler foods. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a conscious change for us.
Yeah, it is. And it's not to say you can't still have some, right? But if we're talking about food in particular, but as we think about springing into spring, we want to think about lightening up. And I would say lightening up, both emotionally, energetically, spiritually, physically, and perhaps putting away the winter coat, right? This idea of shedding the coat, and the winter coat, that is. And Mother Nature shows us this so beautifully in animals that live outdoors. They generally shed their winter coats in spring around March. I went to the grocery store before this started this evening, and I was driving through the neighborhood, and there was a small herd of 7 or 8, I think they call them herds, of like 7 or 8 deer. And you could see some of the thicker parts of the coats and maybe where they had rubbed off some, right? And so Mother Nature is showing us, like, this is shedding of the winter coat that allows new growth and abundance during the coming months. And so as we move into spring and this chat, I invite you to open your minds and your hearts and think about what you need to do personally to shed your winter coat, right, as we spring forward.
I just put my winter coat away and brought out the jacket. So literally I've put my coat in the closet. So there we go. Let's start.
There's something about that transition though, right? And so this, it wouldn't be me if I didn't say, the science of Ayurveda, and for anyone that doesn't know, it's a 5,000-year-old healing system that modern science is catching up to and integrating into their wellness practices. Most of us know that. Our doctor would tell us meditation, eat more leafy greens. Those are some entry-level kind of points into Ayurveda, but it tells us that one of the keys to maintaining health is to practice Richikara. Richikara means, in Sanskrit, seasonal routines. So that as the season changes, thinking Warrior Two to Warrior, Reverse Warrior, we begin to adjust our self-care and our daily practices to really help us maintain balance and bring us into connection with nature. So also this science of Ayurveda, as we know, tells us that spring and winter are primarily ruled by what we call the Kapha dosha. For anyone familiar with Ayurveda, there's Vata, Pitta, and Kapha as three primary doshas, or energies or constitutions of, that we hold as individuals, a unique combination of. And Kapha represents spring and winter. So I think that's really interesting because it's the elements of water representing kind of cohesiveness, and earth, which is the second element that makes up Kapha, that's more about solidification and form. So in simple words, Kapha energies and qualities tend to be heavy, cool, soft. They can be dense and stable. You think about putting water and earth together. There's the coolness of mud, but it also can be quite stable. It also can be cloudy, right? That again, going back to that flow of the warrior in transitioning. And so as we change seasons from winter to spring, moving more into spring and away from winter, we really can support our physical and emotional well-being by embracing these richikaras, or these transitions, or what I like to call rituals, because I think that's how important they are. So with all of that said, I will say before I get into these four pieces that not everything works for everyone. We're unique. Open your heart, open your mind. And here's a few that I think work for most. Okay. So number one is use nature as your guide. I mean, when you think of spring, and Michelle, you're such a flower lover, right?
Yeah.
When you think of spring, if you go to Michelle's Instagram, you'll see flowers, 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 and then some taxes, and then flowers and taxes. And so I think nature, right? Nature renewing, refreshing, cleaning, and yeah, some allergies. And so within that idea of using nature as your guide, there's this idea of get outside, right? We know this. Get outside and touch nature. We get outside mindfully with intention and breathe that in. We actually start to cut through distractions in our everyday life. Mm-hmm. So I like to think gardening, dirt has energy. Walking barefoot, the earth has energy. Hiking, vibrations in the air has energy. We're energy. And when we get outside and we start to connect with that, take a conference call outside, right? The non-Zoom ones, we connect. And Margaret Atwood, who I don't know if anyone will know her, she's a Canadian novelist, literary critic, teacher. She says, in the spring, at the end of the day, you should smell like dirt.
I do that quite often on the weekends.
You should smell like dirt. So, also within that idea of getting outside, I love the idea of like leveraging plant power, right? So I love essential oils and use things like citrus. I happen to have a lemon with me, or wild orange. They're invigorating and they help digest and detoxify. Lavender is a beautiful immune supporter. Peppermint, anyone that smells peppermint knows that it's this openingness. And also for you, Michelle, in mind, if you have allergies, your allergy suffers, and you're like, I'd love to be in love with spring, but the allergies are killing me. Peppermint, lavender, and lemon combined are really powerful allergy fighters. So this idea of getting outside and being and connecting with nature can also be inside. We can bring the outside in. The last one in that is wake up with the sunshine. I know everybody says, and there's some listeners I'm sure will say, I don't get up before 8:30. But this time of year, the sun's rising around 6:45-ish or 7, I think is right. And the sun is energy, and it encourages growth and transformation. The dawn, the morning, is ruled by movement. And so when you think about coming out of winter, that maybe more cozy or heaviness, this opposite of dawn and sunrise, the light and the clear and the subtles, are really beautiful balancing properties there. So those internal circadian rhythms, this nature thing that we have going on inside of us, there's a reason it feels good, when we're outside and in alignment with that.
Yeah. We went for a walk earlier today, and just feeling the sun, and like you said, since I love flowers, I'm looking to see what's blooming, what's getting ready to bloom. You can see the trees budding and getting ready. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Yeah, I love that. So the second one is, I like to call it create movement. Exercise, 100% right, for exercise. But the second tip is really create movement. And I say it that way because I want it to be unique. I want you to find the physical movement, or I hope you find physical movement that you love to do. Right? So if that's get outside in the morning and a brisk walk, or it's vigorous yoga to kind of melt away that winter weight, great. If movement is a gentle walk, great. If it's a breathing technique, Kapalabhati is a breath of fire. It's a great way to stoke movement without literally moving the physical body the way we might think about it. When you think about yoga, always a good choice, but think about specifically heart-opening poses that kind of encourage this blooming and connecting and opening to your own compassion and for yourself and others. So cat-cow, or anything where you're goal posting the arms and drawing the chest forward, right? So really thinking about where you can create movement as a tip for springing into spring.
I love that. I love that. And like you said, it doesn't have to be something huge, but it's something intentional, something that you're just making sure you take a pause and do a little extra.
Yeah, every cell in your body will thank you, I promise, for that little bit of movement. And I think your word intention is really, I think, spot on. You know, it doesn't have to be the Peloton every day or a yoga class every day. It can be more creative, and spring's a really great time to experiment with a lot of that. So number 3, eat lighter, but I don't necessarily mean it in the way that you think. During the winter months, we naturally gravitate, we were talking about, to that heavier comfort food. We tend to eat a lot of sweet, sour, and salty tasting foods. So you think sauces, marinades, stews, meat, pasta, dairy, bread, rice, alcohol, potatoes, right? Those are all those things that we think about in the wintertime. And the problem is, even when we eat lighter, so I don't like to use that word, as we move into spring, as we spark up the grills and salads get more table time type of thing, we still mostly eat sweet, sour, salty foods a lot. This is the primary taste and diets of most Westerners, and it's one of the main reasons we have a lot of health issues. So I'm not suggesting that we should eliminate sweet, sour, salty tastes. Rather, that we move to spring, we want to minimize some of those heavier foods and get a little more excited about
what have you there?
Well, I went to the farmer's market yesterday just for you, Michelle. And transition to eating what the earth is telling us. So eating foods that have the taste. I mean, aren't these gorgeous? Like, you can, you eat collard greens, you eat the whole thing, but you move towards tastes that are pungent, bitter, and astringent. So think asparagus, kale, collards, mushrooms, spinach, green beans, berries, cherries, and strawberries and blueberries, peas. Cut this whole thing up. It's my favorite recipe ever in the spring. Cut this whole thing up, a little bit of olive oil in a pan. Toss this around like you would spinach, right? You can use spinach, but use the stems, you get this beautiful color. And then once it comes out, just a gentle, light salt and pepper. And then in that pan, throw some slivered almonds, toast the almonds, and then add that to this collard green. Serve it over quinoa. Amazing. It's good cold. It's good warm. So,
I love that. Great recipe tip.
Like, wow, you guys. Anyway, so moving towards these pungent, bitter, astringent flavors really helps detoxify the body, and I would argue the mind, and it stimulates digestion and metabolism. It creates movement and dries up that excess fat and winter heaviness. So it can really be good for the mind and the body.
Because we know we learn more and more how connected they are, right? So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that beautiful transition. You would think we planned this. But my 4th tip is create space. Shed. Space creates room for infinite possibilities. It is really a place for us to grow and expand and offer an understanding of that own, like hear a little bit of that intuitive knowledge that we know we have. But when we've crammed our bellies or crammed our office space or crammed our mind with stuff, there's no room for newness and possibility. And spring is all about that. So another way to say this, and I say this a lot, is if you have clutter in the mind, you probably have clutter under the bed. If you have clutter in your desk, you probably have some sort of clutter in the body. They are connected, right?
Absolutely.
And Michelle's like, and don't look over here in my office.
Look how neat and clean my office is. See, you got to love a nice green screen.
You do. Well, yeah. I'm pointing in one direction for a reason too. But we all know that term spring cleaning. It just happens, right? It's almost like it's like as if you were an animal outside that knew when it was time to hibernate. It's like we're like, oh yeah, now it's time for spring cleaning, right? It really doesn't. It really doesn't get by most of us, right? We all know that term spring cleaning, but it really does matter. And just like taxes, Michelle, for most of us, this is a lingering creation of clutter in the mind. We hear taxes, right? And so even though we have extra time this year, right? Maybe getting your taxes done this year could be a beautiful way of creating space and kind of honoring this transition into spring. Get them done, get rid of the weight, shed the coat.
I appreciate that, Colleen. A lot of people worry about their taxes and they'll extend and they'll worry about it all summer long. We got an extra month. You got to May 15th. Yeah. Get it done. Just find a way to get it done, and you'll feel lighter. So yes, that's a good example.
A lot lighter. And then the last thing I'll say, kind of the last part of this tip about creating space is I really invite everyone to release and forgive. Give yourself this gift. This past year has been tough, but here we are, right? We are resilient. We did it. So welcome this idea of a freshness. And I'm not suggesting, I'm waiting for April 1st and then it'll be okay. I don't mean that. I mean in the moment, like just this idea of releasing yourself from some of the ideas that might feel heavy or lofty or weighting. And again, that's not to minimize what we've all been through either. But similarly with forgiveness, whether you have yourself to forgive or someone else to forgive, there's just been so much happening in the world. I encourage everyone to ask themselves, like, what is this mind clutter doing for me? Like, really, what is the mind clutter doing for me? And would I, and how does that mind clutter show up in my body? Does my stomach get clenched? Am I holding my shoulders? Like, where can I release and forgive? And so that to me really is, I save it for last, because I think as we think about spring, every year nature gives us a fresh start. Every year the tulips bloom again. And so where can we tune into that? So keep it simple. Explore some of these tips. Try one or two. Be consistent with one or two. That's really important, right? And if something doesn't feel supportive as you move into it, be curious and try something else. Lao Tzu, a Chinese philosopher, says, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. And so be simple with yourself. Be simple and trust in that inner knowing and intelligence. Let yourself hear yourself. Tune into that. So those are my 4 tips.
Thank you, Colleen. I really appreciate these tips. On some level, it seems so simple, but we need those reminders. We need to hear those things. We need to consciously think about them and ask ourselves, how can we invite that in? How can we make this difference? How can we go try some colored greens and really enjoy them? Yes, they put a little almond with them. That sounds delicious. So I want to invite everybody who's tuned in here to please reach out to Colleen's website. I'm sharing it here, and I'll share it in the comments. I know there's a couple free things you offer, Colleen. Do you want to tell our audience a little more about what you're offering?
Yeah, absolutely. So right on my homepage, there's a little spot that says schedule a wellness consult. It really is somewhere between 30 and 30, 45, 60. Usually it's long, if you want it to be, to talk specifically about some of the unique challenges you're having, or maybe to learn a little more about Ayurveda. So that's a free offering, and I invite everyone to jump on, and I'd love to get to know people a little bit more and offer what I can. And then on Monday mornings at 8:30, I offer a free meditation. Everyone is welcome, any age, wherever you are, in whatever you're wearing. We've been doing it now for over a year, and I would love to have anyone join. If you go to my website under services, if you look down below, you'll see the link to register for that, but it's free of charge.
Yeah, and that's 8:30 Eastern, and she does have people joining us from across the country, so it's not too early. So, and I love your meditations on Monday mornings. It's a great way to get the week started. You're always sharing something really beautiful with. Take that, register, come join us, come get your week started on the right foot. It's really wonderful. So Colleen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And these are really good things for everybody to be thinking about. And I just want to thank you for being here. Any final words as we wrap up here?
Just look to Mother Nature when you're not certain.
Yeah.
Look to Mother Nature and listen to your heart. Go easy with yourself, and just thank you so much for tuning in and letting me get to share some of the things I'm passionate about. Very grateful. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you again, Colleen. Please fill out and learn a little bit more about Ayurveda, learn a little bit more about meditation. Thank you for joining us. I hope you found value in this. Please comment, please share with your friends. Definitely subscribe to Health and Taxes YouTube channel, and join us again next week at 7:30 Eastern. We'll be looking forward to seeing you. So thank you and good night.